Yeah. Today is Thursday, November 4th. It is 5 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is the monthly meeting which occurs on the first Thursday of the month of the Revere Human Rights Commission. So we hope you're having a good day, and we will now do a roll call of the commissioners. So please either unmute yourself here or on Zoom when I call your name. Lynn Alexis.
Present.
Thank you. Reverend Tim Bogertman.
Present.
Thank you. Chief Christopher Bright.
Present.
Thank you. Chief Dave Callahan. Looks like Chief Callahan is not here yet. Dr. Lorenzo Garcia is absent. Vice Chair Shema Mansour Hosseini is coming soon. Rashid Mukabir.
Present.
Thank you. Karu Pish.
Present.
Thank you. Kathy Reinstein.
Present.
Thank you. And I am Chair Janine Grillo-Mara, present. We do have a quorum of 5 of us in person and 2 virtually. Okay. And now we begin, as we typically do, with a few minutes of simply arriving and settling. And if you're new to this, it's a way that we can become more present, that we can connect within our own individual experience as well as in this alone together experience of being human. And it helps us realize that within our uniqueness and differences that we really do connect on a fundamental human level. So to just come back to this very basics and simplicity of breathing, being in a body, just resting and being present. So I invite you to find a comfortable position, whether that's sitting or something else. And if you find it helpful to close your eyes, please do so. But if that causes you stress or discomfort, there's no need. And just maybe take a few moments. What's it like to be you right now? And whatever that is, right? It could be content, stressed, exhausted, grumpy, happy, anxious, relaxed. So whatever it's like to be you right now, see if you can just recognize and allow that to be so. So each of us fully welcome as we are. And I invite you, if it's safe and comfortable, to maybe slow your breath a bit, lengthen your breath, so breathing a bit slower and deeper than your typical breath. Just notice the way the breath operates in your body, and the way it shapes the body, whether the rhythm feels even or jagged. There's no judgment. Respect whatever you feel and notice. Just what would help you feel more present, more here, more relaxed and at ease, not struggling with what's happening. Being a welcoming host or hostess to your experience. Just imagine what it would be like if we did this for ourselves and each other across the community, across the state, the country, the planet. Just resting in this intention for the deepest well-being for all, not one excluded. As we conclude, if you'd like, as you breathe in, it's as though you're breathing this intention, this aspiration into your whole body and being. And as you breathe out, you're extending it out into the community, into the world. And now for those in person at the chambers, please, we'll recite our mission statement together. And unfortunately, we cannot have those on Zoom join us because it just doesn't work well on Zoom technologically if too many people unmute at the same time. So please join me as we state our mission statement together. The mission of the Revere Human Rights Commission is to promote human and civil rights and empower all people of Revere by ensuring that everyone, especially the most vulnerable and marginalized, have equitable opportunities, equal access, and are treated with dignity, respect, fairness, and justice. Thank you. Okay. Ruben. Okay, so next on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from October 7th. Those were distributed to the commissioner and have been posted on the HRC webpage within a week after the last meeting. So if anyone has any questions, any revisions, comments, please speak. And if not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve those minutes? I second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. And on Zoom, I see Caru's hand raised and Lynn Alexa. Oh, yes, I see your hand. Thank you. So all are in favor. Okay. Next on the agenda is a subcommittee update, the Cultural Holidays and Celebration Subcommittee. So Kathy Reinstein had been the chair of that subcommittee, and we thank Kathy for her service chairing that subcommittee. Just due to scheduling conflicts, she is not going to serve on that subcommittee. However, she will continue to serve on the full HRC. I have asked Vice Chair Shay Hosseini to be the chair of that subcommittee, which she did accept, and so I'm happy to say she accepted. At this point, I just wanted everyone to know that that change was happening. That subcommittee right now includes Vice Chair Shay, Dr. Garcia, and Caru Pish. I am an ex-aficionado member of the subcommittee. And because we will soon have a director in place, it does not seem to make sense to add any members to that subcommittee, because that subcommittee might end up merging into a different subcommittee or dissolving or sort of recreating itself in some way. So that's the status. Vice Chair Shema will follow up with those subcommittee members, and there are some loose ends to look at the calendar for 2022 and other things, but they will sort of meet before the end of the year and report back to the full HRC. So, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Kathy.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you to you and to Ruben and to the other subcommittee members. We did a lot of extensive work and research on it. It was great to be a part of it. I appreciated the opportunity and to work with everybody. And I apologize that I have to step down, but work is just it's very, very busy. So I look forward, though, to still working with everybody in the overall committee. And thank you very much, and good luck to Shay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. So we have two topics for discussion, and for the first, we have a presentation on a grant project titled Planting Seeds for Reconciliation, and the grant writer, Kathleen Heiser, is here to speak with us. So we'll probably have, around a half an hour or so for this topic, or a little more if we need it. Kathleen will present for maybe 15 minutes or so, and then each commissioner will be able to ask questions or offer some input. But Kathleen had reached out to me because she felt that this work would sort of parallel with some of the work that the HRC is doing, so she wanted us to be aware of it, and she wanted to know how we might be able to support her or give some feedback. Okay, Kathleen, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Can I take my mask off? Thank goodness. Okay, so happy Diwali, everybody. That's a celebration of lights celebrated by our Indian friends. And this is a very important celebration, somewhat similar to what we celebrate when we celebrate Christmas. So let me tell you who I am, because only a couple of you know me. My name is Kathleen Heiser. I'm the president of the Beechmont Improvement Committee. I live in Beechmont. I've been here for probably about 26 or 27 years. I'm really in love with the community, and what happened to me, I was a late bloomer, so I didn't go to college until I was older. And so when I was in New York, which is where I'm from, I went to the State University of New York at Stony Brook, and when I walked on campus, I was shocked because I lived a pretty narrow existence. I didn't know. Here I was in a microcosm of the world. Everybody from everybody was there, from everywhere, and I loved it. So when I came up here to do my graduate study, and I got a job teaching first grade at the Garfield School, I decided I wanted to stay here because I like the diversity. I loved my students. I loved my students' parents. I just like being part of this community. And I think I am very sensitive to the issues because I have had issues of my own, not being a new immigrant or something like that, but having had a large family and living in a neighborhood that was above my means and being looked down at and talked down to, and being uneducated for most of my life until I was 50. And then that's when I got my degrees. So I know how frightening it could be to rub shoulders with people that you think are more, I don't know, smarter. And so I've always been super sensitive to my students and their parents. So I wrote this grant and I submitted it. It was due November 1st and it's called Planting Seeds for Reconciliation. And I put a little definition, the action of making one view or belief compatible to another. And I have some copies of this later if you're interested in looking at it, because you might not remember what I'm saying. But I think this project goes along with so many projects that are happening within the city. I felt compelled to do this because I felt like I had to do something concrete, not just have words. And so I've already reached, I think that the project itself will reach out to thousands of people within the city, and I think it will be worthwhile, which you'll hear about it in a minute. But I don't want to diminish in any way, shape, or form anything anybody else has been doing, because we're really all on the same page, I think, when it comes to equities. So I'd say that probably almost everybody in the United States is an immigrant from somewhere. And you know, you might have come over on the Mayflower, your family, or you flew in a jet, or you walked across the border. Who knows? But there's a story to be had from everybody. And I think one of the reasons that I feel like this is important is because the old-timers that have been here, second, third, fourth generation, may have somewhat forgotten how difficult it was for their ancestors when they came over, because they had to also leave their families and what was all familiar to them and go into a land where they didn't necessarily know the language, and they met with a lot of prejudice. And there were signs, for example, you know, need not apply and go back where you came from. I'm thinking that I would like the older generations to share their story with the newer generations. The newer comers have stories, and I don't think the older generation is as sympathetic to them as they could be, because they've forgotten. And I think that the new people, the newer generations, are thinking, you got it made. You're here, you got it good, you know, you probably had it always. I don't know that they know the struggle that most people faced at one time or another. So, I've spoken to a lot of people. I have been encouraged by the mayor, the superintendent of schools, the assistant superintendent. I spoke to Rashid and a couple people, Janine and Dr. Garcia, Sylvia Chang, and the youth council, a lot of people. And everybody's been encouraging to me, and I am really happy about that. So what I'm looking for, oh, and I forgot to mention that too, who's been a really wonderful help to me, because she has a group of students that are English language learners who are just graduating, I think. And she's going to assign them this project, and I'm going to compensate them with a gift card for $50 each for who presents me with one of these boards. So what I want is a storyboard. I want a storyboard that tells where you come from, why did you leave, what trials and tribulations did you have, what successes did you have, that kind of stuff. But your name doesn't have to be on it. If you choose to do this yourself, I don't want to expose anybody. If they don't want to be identified, you don't have to identify. But I'm looking for storyboards that I'm hoping to display in the lobbies of the schools. So my idea is that, on Meet the Parent Night, Meet the Teacher Night, we would, in the lobby of the school, have some of these storyboards that I want to have laminated on display with a big map of the world with pins in it that say where everybody's from, and flags of all these nations, and I have them. I've actually bought a whole bunch already, even though I haven't been approved of the grant. I'm going to do this one way or another. So I think that besides having these storyboards available for people to look at, I think it will be comfortable when you come in. I bought these little tiny toothpick type flags that we can stick in the poster boards. And you know this poster board's at about 2 foot by 3 foot? That's what I'm talking about, a board that's about like that. And those are the right size for me to laminate. I don't want anything bigger than that. So I'm hoping to get initially about 50 boards done. But I'm asking people within the community to make boards too. I mean, my grandparents were immigrants. They had stories. My mother wrote them all down. So I'd like to, to share them. And I'm sure that some of you have stories that you could share with us too. I just have to look at my notes because I don't want to forget what I want to say. And I'm sorry about that. So there are 11 schools within the city, and I'd love to see this in every single one of them, and including then the PIC Center, maybe even other public places like the library, the police station, the History Museum, who I've been in contact with, and they're all for this. And in fact, I'd like to work with them to help them with their multicultural efforts. So let me make sure, okay. Yeah, so this is a two-part project. So the first part of the project would be the community school doing their storyboards, and then they would have a dinner, a celebration to celebrate it, and they would present them. Bob Dunbar from the Revere TV said he would be willing to video this, and only if they give permission. Of course, if you don't want permission to do it, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But that would be the first step. Then I would take those storyboards and I would distribute them amongst the schools. And the reason I'm talking about the school so much is because when I taught at the Garfield School, there were many times that a new family would come in, brand new to the country, didn't speak the language, was sat down in the office on a hard chair, and staff would walk back and forth talking amongst themselves. And I couldn't help but think it. If I was sitting in that chair, I'd be thinking that maybe they were talking about me. Maybe they were laughing at me even. So I felt some discomfort about that. So what I'm proposing, among the other things for part 2, is that we make our lobbies of the school more friendly to the students and the parents by having maybe a couple of comfortable chairs, a little table where the languages are translated, subjects that we would be interested in, and having a rolling video so we could have interviews with people. That's what I want, will be in the History Museum, mostly immigrants' stories. But for the schools, I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a virtual tour of the school and say, welcome to the Garfield School. This is the school where your children are going to be learning every day. Here's the cafeteria. Here's the lunch lady that gives your kids lunch every day. Say hello. Hi, how you doing? Here's the computer lab where your child will be going. And these are, and in front of you, there's a paper list of websites that would be helpful for math and language arts and so on. So that everybody could feel a little less nervous. But wouldn't it be great if we could have QR codes and get their language? So that if you were watching that, you could actually hear it translated for you, so that it would really make it real and solid, I think. So that's pretty much, I think, what I want to say. I just want to make it as open and friendly as we possibly can, because I think that if we want to really be inclusive, we have to welcome people in a way that they feel comfortable enough that they'll join committees and be part of the schools and so on. And I think that might be a way of doing it. So I think that's all I want to say right now, but I'm really open to any of your ideas or suggestions or questions, because I probably skipped a few things I wanted to say. So it's all yours if you'd like to say something.
Thank you, Kathleen. First, let the record show that Vice Chair Shema Hosseini is now present. And I will call on each of you, whether it's on Zoom, and feel free to speak, to ask questions, give input. If you aren't ready, just say pass, and you'll have an opportunity. I'll come back around. Oh, I'm sorry, Chief Callahan has also joined, so the record reflects that Chief Callahan is present remotely on Zoom. Lynn Alexis, would you like to go first?
Sure, Kathleen, I just want to say thank you. It makes me smile that your vision is really inclusion, and I think some of your ideas, I think your entire vision is a neat one. I just, what I wrote down here is the video idea. I think that is something that is doable, and I think it would, be kind of beneficial to have parents, or depending on what the traffic is like in the lobbies of the school anyway, but I think an introductory video in that way and translation of that video is a nice touch that is probably very doable. So I just want to say thank you. I don't have any questions up front. I mean, I would like to see maybe something written to kind of understand what our role is as the HRC, but I just was encouraged by your vision. Thank you.
Your role is whatever you would like it to be, actually. I mainly want your support, and I want you to talk it up if you can, and encourage people to make storyboards, because I think that's how we're going to do this. I mean, I'm not arrogant enough to think I can change anything, really, but I can plant seeds, and I think that's what I'm trying to do, is just plant a seed.
Thank you. Maybe each of the HRC members can make a storyboard.
I would
and
love
that would
that.
actually be really supportive. Reverend Tim, would you like to go next?
Sure. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate hearing what you're doing here and working in the city to accomplish.
Thank
I think
you.
this is really a great idea to move forward with, and thank you for just giving some of these things to consider. A couple quick thoughts. I mean, I love the idea of the storyboard. That's a great idea in the lobbies and throughout the city and city locations. Of course, I think of other, you can also incorporate into faith stories too, not only individually, but corporately. Whether it's churches or mosques or other,
absolutely.
religious organizations, to tell their stories too, and people within those places.
It's a great idea.
That's part of it as well. So I think that's helpful to know kind of what they've been through and why they're there, and what the people that live there have. Secondly, I like the idea too. You mentioned the dinner idea too, and that's great. And even having the video of rolling footage, I think of two things with that. One is, telling the story is helpful to know what others have gone through. So being willing to tell the good and the bad, obviously, is like, here's the difficulty, here's what was hard. Being able to acknowledge what's gone difficult and what's gone well in the city. And as you said, 4 generations later, for those who have been immigrants, you can forget. So going back and having people tell their story from their own heritage can be helpful to that as well. So I like the idea of having that in the Historical Society as well as throughout the city, to get people to look at that and to realize it. So I really appreciate how you're presenting that. And then I think also it would be interesting too, if you're going to do dinners or have this more of a presentation that way, is ethnic food or different types of food that we share together that can be even have part of that, to acknowledge the diversity of our city.
Right.
Even the idea you said that the flags, which I like that idea, really looking at what it means to embrace all the diversity of the city has to offer and celebrate that. And I think as you do all this, there will be, of course, stories that are hard and that we do need to bring forward. And I think the commission would support that, to say part of our past is looking back at what things have not gone well in Revere, that we would be able to lift up and say, we need to work towards reconciling that. I like the idea of this reconciliation theme. How do we reconcile and live that out together? So I appreciate the work you're trying to do here to tell these stories, and I hope that we can, in any way, support that. And I think also, the last thing I thought of was the video idea. We've discussed about being on TV together and doing some of these programs. This could easily be incorporated into that. Part of a discussion I believe we've had about with Revere TV to have our own program, bringing some of these stories on. Have people interview them and share your story and what it's been like to be in Revere or for your family or community, and to have that so that we are promoting that forward and showing the whole full org picture of Revere and the diversity and inclusion we want to have in the city. So
Thank you,
so much.
Reverend. That was nice of you to say. I want to acknowledge the fact that I believe a group has some videos that they're showing at St. Anthony's.
Oh, great.
And I appreciate that. It's exactly what we'd like to do. So we're all sort of have the same idea. We're on the same path.
Yeah.
It's just we have to get the feet moving.
Yes.
And hopefully having a director will help make it more cohesive, so that we're really all aware of what's happening in these different venues, and that it's sort of supportive and collaborative. So thank you, Reverend Tim. And if you're not aware, we're talking with Bob Dunbar of Revere HTV about having a Revere HRC monthly show, and so that needs to be worked
great.
out, but that's what he was speaking of, that maybe for a month or two, we bring some of these
Well, that would be
people
wonderful.
in.
Actually, I spoke to Bob Upton, and that would be the home base for the boards. When they weren't in the schools, they would be there along with that video. And Dr. Kelly told me that in the archives, there was already some videos that were done years ago, and they're going to try to dig them out for us. So those will be available as well. And I think it would be really, it's okay, keep talking. It would really be nice if we could get the young people to do the interviews. They are talented and they're able to do these things, and it would be much more interesting than, you know, a Kathleen, for instance. So,
Thank you, that's a great idea. Okay, let's mix it up. Kathy?
Kathleen, you are just a gem. I mean, you know, we've been friends for a long time. I think the world of you, and you're incredibly selfless. And as you know, you were talking about your story, I'm just thinking of how fortunate we are in Revere that you ended up here with us. So thank you for all the work that you do for so many organizations and so many different things across the city. I think this is a great idea. I guess my one suggestion is, you know, maybe eventually working with the city to maybe make some kind of graphic that they could either share on cable or social media outlets, or maybe even, you know, a handout to give to students for them to work on this, like with direction, so that even like we could share on our own personal, you know, avenues, our own outlets or email, you know what I mean? I think, because that would be, you'd be able to get a lot of outreach that, I mean, I don't know, I have not been in school in the city of Revere in a very long time, but I remember always being sent home with papers of different things that were happening, so I would assume that that's email now. I'm totally aging myself, but, you know, if there's a way, like, you'd be able to get a ton of cooperation, but I think even the senior center would be another place.
oh, the senior center, that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, and, you know, to kind of, and I agree with everything that Reverend Tim said, too, because I think, you know, going to the different religious, and you know what, who knows, even some of, like, I keep thinking about, like, the Casablanca Bakery, and, like, how there's so many people that, you know, get together in different parts of the city. I think, like, even places like that, some of the bakeries putting a poster up or something could be interesting.
This so easily leads into the multicultural festivals such as Rashid does. And I was talking to the PTO people and about this idea of an open house and having the poster boards. And I have a grant that I was issued or granted 2 years ago, and because of COVID, we didn't do it. We were going to have a multicultural festival. But I'm talking to the PTO person and saying artifacts and so on to come in, if we can go in the school. And it all seems to gel. It all seems to go together. I was thinking even, on the storyboard, recipes, pictures of your weddings and your children and grandchildren and things like that. Where did I go recently? Someplace where I was so shocked that, I'm embarrassed to say this, okay? But I went into someone's home and I was like, oh, it's just like mine. All the same stuff. Look at the slippers on the floor over here. And, things that I thought were uniquely, I should know better, but we need to learn. You need to teach us. We need to teach you. I need to teach you about me, and you need to teach me about you. That's the bottom line.
Thank you for all you do. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Kathy. Karu?
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
I'm so honored to hear all of your great ideas, and it's so needed. And I love storytelling.
Thank you.
I also support the idea of having younger people sharing their stories as well. Not just their story, and they can also share about their parents' stories. I don't have any more suggestions. Let me know if I can be any supportive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karu. Chief Bright?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Kathleen, for being here tonight and giving us this wonderful presentation. It's such a great idea, and you have great timing, impeccable timing, because we really need something like this, I think, in the city. The storyboards, bringing the stories of older immigrants who might be a little more removed, their families from their experience with our newer immigrants. I think those are all conversations that this is exactly where we need to go. It doesn't seem like it would be prohibitive cost-wise to kind of put this stuff together, too. It's ingenious
Well,
to
I'll
tell
tell
these
you,
stories.
a very prominent lawyer in town said to me the other day, "You got it, you've got it. I'm going to fund you." And I went, "What?" He said, "Whatever you get in your grant, I'll fund you." And I couldn't believe it, because I think people really want this.
They do want stuff like, we're very hungry for stuff like
And
this. I
we
believe.
need it.
We need it, and to partner with Revered TV to get these stories shown on video and in the schools and on the
Absolutely.
storyboards. It's genius, so we thank you very much, and we're honored to have
Thank you so
past
much.
Woman of the Year here with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. Wouldn't it be nice if we could go down to Kimberly Park and see those tables with people sitting there playing chess or cards from other ethnic groups? It's just like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Chief. Rashid Mukabir?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Kathleen, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I just want to start with a couple of testimonials before I make any comments in here about your new projects. Kathleen and I know each other for probably last 4 or 5 years. The first time I met Kathleen, that was in the Multicultural Festival, probably in Beechmont, and they were having some tents in there. And that's about the time when I started organizing the Moroccan Festival. And I asked her for a couple of tents. And she gave me a couple of tents. And she didn't only do that, she asked me to go to her backyard in the shade. And she allowed me to go to her house while she's not there and grab those 2 tents. And the same thing with people from her organization, the Beechmont Improvement Committee, and they would like to talk about Ed DeVoe as well. He gave us a couple of tents as well around that time. And we didn't have any money to start that festival at that time. Just because of people like her and like Ed DeVoe, we were able to organize the first Moroccan festival. And guess what? Now we have like 24 tents, and we donated all of those tents to the city. If you need them this year, they are there, and because of the seeds that you planted a while ago. The other thing that I would like to mention in here is I had a conversation with Kathleen, and she was thinking that probably if she does this project, she may be stepping on someone's toes because we are here to promote human rights and promote inclusion and diversity in the city. I think doing the right thing in the city is the responsibility of every one of us. You are not stepping on anybody's toes. You are doing the right thing. You are stepping up to empower others. I think it's a very, very wonderful project. Anything I can be supportive of, please let us know. I would like to support you. I will try to make my board, and also we are working with the History Museum to come up with the multicultural section in there. Anything you want from there, probably those projects will mix together at a certain time or at a certain point. And we are all here to promote inclusion, diversity, and we have to listen to each other. We have to acknowledge each other. And I think you have been doing a wonderful job, and keep doing what you have been doing, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashid. You know, so many times we, different groups have work on these similar ideas, and we don't talk to each other about it. It's like kept a secret, kind of. And if we could just pool our efforts, we could do a whole lot more than we're doing right now. And I'd like to think that I don't carry a big ego with me. I'm not upset if anybody contradicts what I have to say or wants to change it or add to it. I think that's a wonderful thing. That's how we can make something really super, because we start in Revere, and then it's the state, and then it's the country. And I see it bigger. I don't want it to end with just Revere. I'm very unhappy with the world right now, and I want to be planting seeds everywhere. And I thank you all so very much for your time and your comments. I really appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you. Shay, thank you, Rashid. And Shay, if you'd like to ask any questions or give some feedback.
All I have to say is thank you very much for proposing this idea, Kathleen. I'm actually doing something similar at my university, you know, showing diversity and stuff like that. So when you mentioned the multicultural film, I feel like we should definitely go for that this year or even next year. One idea that I want to propose, I think someone touched upon it, but I'm not sure, is that the story that you said when, you know, that group of family came into the school and they felt a little bit uncomfortable and stuff like that, and you want to make the introduction to the school a little bit more welcome. I think what you should do is just have students of that school talk about their experiences at that school in their own language. You know, I feel like that's a good idea as well. So not only are you showcasing your school, the students are showcasing this is how the school helped them out, especially as someone who isn't from Revere or isn't from this country or isn't an American citizen or whatever the case might be. So I think that's the only suggestion that I have. But I think overall, all of our ideas are basically the same thing. All my fellow commission members basically said the same thing that I wanted to say. And yeah, thank you very much for all the effort. And I would love to be there with you, on top of everything with you. So let me know if there's any way I can help.
Thank you so very much. And I will be in touch with everybody because I plan to put things in the newspaper and so on. So I can, if it's okay with you, I'll write you onto my email list, and then I'll send you out my blurbs. But please don't feel that you can't reach out to me anytime. I have my phone number, my email address, and I'd like to text on one of these papers. And If you'd like to have the overview of what I did, I'll give it to you happily. And also some questions as to what's your story. That's what I want to put in the paper next. What's your story? And I have that written out, so I'll give you a copy of that as well. And just for the heck of it, what do you think of this map for in the PIC Center? Do you think it should be just a big world map, or do you think something like this is good? Or is this too narrow? Oops, there, whoops, stay still. Thank you. I kind of thought it might be nice, because when you walk into the PIC Center, all that's there, really, what greets you is the American flag, and not that that's a bad thing, but it would really be nice to see some others as well, and maybe have a bucket with bottles of water in it that people could have, and maybe some crackers or something, just like, you're welcome here. This is like, if you came to my house, I'd give you something to eat and drink. So this is our house.
Thank you. And Kathleen, before I pass this to Chief Callahan, feel free that if you have any documents written up, if you email them to me, I'll follow up with you after the email, then I can send them out to the rest of the HRC.
Well, I will do that, but I have hard copies with me, so I
Okay,
can put
yep.
them on the table, and if you want them, you can take them. Okay?
Chief Callahan, would you like to ask anything or share anything?
I'm sorry, Chief. I didn't see you there.
We're almost done, but we're not yet.
It's okay.
I apologize, Kathleen. I was a little tied up here at the police station, so I got on the meeting a little late.
You're a busy man.
So, listen, it sounds like a great idea, and I think it's very good for the community because it's very diverse here. There's a lot of different people, and they can share with one another and learn.
Do you think, Chief, do you think that it might be, I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you think that it might be a possibility that we could put some storyboards in the lobby of the police station?
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Absolutely. We have a lot of people that come in here on a daily basis, and I think it would be a nice thing. Yes.
I think it would, and maybe Chief Bright, the same? Perfect. Yeah, the more places, the better. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chief.
No, I kind of concur with all the other members of the HRC. But, again, back to your thing, we're putting some boards in the lobby of the police station. I think it's a great idea. We have a lot of people that come in and out, and
Fabulous.
Everyone in the city comes here for one reason or another, looking for information or reports or things like that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And for those that don't know, when Kathy reached out to me, we spoke in depth about the project. And the one suggestion I had made was that instead of referring to students, to use the word person. That would be more inclusive. Sometimes we have this connotation, a student is a certain age or something or other, but it's really each person or people that participate with the storyboards. And the only other thing that I just want to emphasize again, that I'm really hopeful that having a diversity and inclusion director in place will really help to pull these threads together of so many people doing such good work that it can be funneled through one area so that we're all aware, we're not duplicating efforts, we're supporting each other in an efficient way. And that's all I really have to say. Kathleen, if you have any finishing final thoughts?
No, I'm thrilled with your responses to me, and I look forward to working hard. You don't know me very well, but I hate making phone calls, but I made a lot of phone calls, and I was on that phone for hours and hours and hours. That's why I brought mints, because I get so dry mouth. And I feel passionate about it. It's something I really want to do, and I can't do it alone. And maybe we'll get some packets of seeds as well. And for the schools, we could actually have the kids planting seeds, real seeds, and just carry that theme.
That's excellent, because now it brings nature into it. And nature is really what connects us all.
Yes, absolutely. And so maybe we could get donations of seeds And that would be wonderful. So thank you all again.
I'm sorry, it seems like Rashid has something else. Thank you, Reverend.
Just a suggestion, like when I saw the map that you were showing, it reminds me about something that we have in the company that I work for. It's a medical device company, and wherever we implement our technology, we have like a big map at the entrance of the company. And whenever I was installing those systems all over the world, and wherever we install a system, we put a pin in that country. I think it will be a very wonderful idea to have like a big map. I'm looking at Ruben to pass the message to the mayor, maybe like a big map in the city hall, and people like put like those pins.
That's a
wherever
wonderful
they are
idea.
coming from, and we'll see like how many countries our city is represented.
It would be amazing.
Great. So at least like people when they are walking to the city hall, they know that somebody from their country have been here before. I think it will be inclusive and encouraging other people too.
And I might add that I mentioned that I bought the flags on little toothpicks. And so the boards, the storyboards that I'm talking about are the ones that are thicker. They have like a foam inside of it. And these are small little flags that I thought after they're laminated, I could stick a flag at the top. And that when you walked in the room, you could say, oh, there, Croatia, there's people from my country over there. You could go right there, but then look at the other ones too. But you would see your own country represented, and I think will be very nice. That's it.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Shema.
My apologies, Madam Chair. I want to go off to what Amir Rashid said about the flag thing, because based off mine, I kind of came in late when you were talking about your project, but with the storyboards, I feel like it's like, would people who aren't participating in that have the ability to be like, oh, I'm not a part of any of these countries, let me make my own? Because like, I feel like, I know MGH does it because they have a world map that you could just put a pin in, and it's like, oh, when I don't see my country, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put a pin in right there. So like, is that like what you're trying to do, or like?
Yes, I want to hear from everybody. Everybody has a story, and actually, if you're not a Native American, you probably are an immigrant from somewhere, and maybe they were immigrants too. So, I mean, more than likely so. So we all have a story. We all have a story of how we got to where we are now. And I oftentimes hear people say, oh, you know, I did it all by myself. I didn't have anybody help me. I did it. I did it myself, and if I could do it, you could do it too. And that's rarely the case, very rarely the case, that somebody helped them somewhere, even just being here, being able to do what you want to do. You have an opportunity that maybe somebody else doesn't have.
And my other thing is, the picture that you just showed us, that you said that was for the PIC Center? Is that what you said?
I was thinking that. I mean, I don't know what to do at the PIC Center. I want to go over there with Dr. Garcia and take a look at it a little more closely. I was thinking so some of the flags that I've already purchased are, they have a little stand and a stick, and then there's a flag is about like that big. And I actually have them in my hallway in my house, and all bunches of them. And I thought, yeah, I'd like to see those on the counter or something in the PIC Center. But then I thought, how can we show the whole scope? I did a drawing once, a painting, and I had the whole world. It was like glass, and it was in my hands. And that's how I feel, like you have the world in your hands, and you can do something with that, and you're part of that earth. So,
My suggestion is there any way that we could change the flags? Because like when you showed it to me, I could see like there's a lot of European flags, but Revere is like mostly like.
Sure, I don't see why we couldn't.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be this.
Okay.
I just put it out as an idea, but if anybody has something better or more inclusive, I'm 100% for it. So, but yeah, why couldn't we just put other ones on there? I mean, we could take a real good look at what our population is made up of. I know that in my school, we had 42 languages spoken. And that's a lot of people, a lot of countries. My first year teaching, I had 15 kids in my class that didn't speak English, and they didn't speak each other's language either. Everybody spoke a different language. And the only thing that I could use was my smile. And fortunately for me, I smile easily. But, you know, and that's the way I am. But, you know, I know that there's a need. There's yeah. So many of my students were from war-torn countries, and you know that. Pastor Tim, you must know that from your church, and Reverend Nick, I mean, he's amazing, and we've all worked trying to do these things before. Just as this idea came to me, and this is the way I thought maybe I could get everybody on board. Does anybody else have a question or a comment? Thank you very, very much for your time and your comments.
Thank you, Kathleen. Feel free if you want to either distribute the hard copies or leave them on the table, and I'll follow up with you after to get them in an
Well, that might be
online form.
disruptive. I don't want to be disruptive.
You can just leave them to the right
Okay,
of Mr.
I'll put
Cantor.
them there. There's one that's stapled together, and then there's another separate one. So it'll be two little piles. I'll do that
And
for
as you
sure.
proceed with the project, feel free, if, you know, you need more input, you want to come back. Some, especially, it sounds like I'm hearing, especially around the flags and the graphics, that there could be
know.
more brainstorming. If this group can be helpful,
be
just
wonderful.
stay in touch.
Yeah, that's great. I
Thank
love
you.
that. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And the next topic is Mr. Cantor, the committee chair, who will give us an update on re-precinting.
Madam Chair insists on calling me Mr. Cantor. So speaking of maps at a different scale, I think you guys all know, I've spoken with you in the past, you've probably seen that we have had this redrawing revere, the re-precincting process. We started it, I guess, back in April, and we are finally in the home stretch, as it were. So we received maps from the state legislature that kind of constrained a little bit our boundaries. I mean, we were waiting for the legislature to do this. We thought that they might change the process. In the past, the process has been the cities and towns draw their wards and precincts first, and then the legislature draws its boundaries afterwards, but we had to switch that up because of the timing of the census and to meet certain constitutional requirements for state legislative districts. So without going into too much detail, I'm happy to quickly do a share of the map so you can see it here. Hang on a second. See if I can do that for you. So this is the map that we have submitted to the City Council today. And there's a couple of things that we've switched up a little bit, but for the most part, I don't think you'll see a lot of big changes. The biggest shift is really in Ward 2, because Ward 2 outgrew the legal boundaries that it could maintain. In order to keep by law, all wards have to maintain a pretty consistent size between them, and all the precincts have to maintain. They have to be within 5% of the average of one another. So Ward 2 actually had to shrink because the population had grown. And I think Ward 6 was actually the ward that had to grow the most because it was the least outside the average. I don't want to sort of scoop myself, because what's going to happen now is it's going to the City Council, and at the City Council on Monday, we are expecting it to be referred to the Committee of the Whole, is my understanding, and then that will have 2 hearings from there. that will be on the 15th and the 18th. So Monday, the 15th at 4 p.m., I believe is the plan, and Thursday, the 18th at 6 p.m. We will have 2 hearings to talk about these maps and answer your questions and explain why we drew the maps the way we did and take comments and suggestions. I think we incorporated a lot of feedback. We had nearly 150 people participate in our online poll and comments, which was really valuable. For the purposes of the HRC, I imagine the thing that you'd be most interested in is some of the, if you can, sorry, the demographic breakdown, if you're able to see that, of the 6 wards. And NH stands for not Hispanic. And so you can see there's a deviation of less than 2.3% at the outside. So we have all the wards are relatively similar size. And you can see the population percentages, the percentage of white, black, Asian, other race, 2+ races, and then also the voting age population for each of those groupings. Given the fairly dramatic changes in Revere's demographics over the last decade, we think that these ward demographics are pretty in line with those changes. So I think that we'll be having much more discussion about these topics, and I'm sure many more at those hearings. But I'm happy to take questions or thoughts or comments on the process, and I think I probably have to go through the chair to do that. So I will do that.
Thank you. Kathy?
Everyone knew I was going to have questions. I really commend you, Ruben, or Mr. Cantor, and everyone else who took part in this. This is really a really difficult thing to do, and it's something that you both, everyone always, I think, doesn't and does look forward to doing every decade. So, this year you guys were up against a lot with the census, being postponed and things like that. So it was a lot of work, and with the growth, it has to, you really had to redraw some things significantly and take a lot of tradition out of some of the wards, I would argue, right? Especially in Ward 2, which was, to shrink a ward is, that's not easy. So my question, though, is this going to be available online for us to see and things like that?
Great question. So there is an interactive version that is available right now at revere.org/redrawingrevere, and then the map, or a similar version of the map that I just showed, I am going to upload that as well, so people can see the PDF of that if they prefer to look at it that way. But the interactive version will allow you to go and find your street if you want to see, if your precinct has changed. People can do that right now at www.revere.org/redrawingrevere. So yeah, that is now published, and of course, I'm sure there'll be many comments and thoughts, and people will wonder why we did things the way we did, and
And the demographics, that graph will be on there too?
I don't know if it is yet, but it will be.
Okay.
I will definitely get that in there.
I'm one of the people that actually looks at the ones that were on the state website too, so that's like who you're dealing with here. I know that I am a very small population of those people. but-
You and me both.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, guys, and thank you to your whole committee for the work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just so I have the URL correct, is it redraw Revere or redrawing?
Redrawing Revere.
ING,
Yeah.
okay. Carew?
Thank you, Mr. Cantor, for the presentation. Love it. I'm just curious about the voting ages. Well, I think I'll go to the website and look for more detail since you sharing that.
Sure. I'll just because you asked the question, you can see the voting age populations. I just put them back up on the screen. It's the right-hand side of the chart, and you can see that 4 of the 6 wards have less than 50% not Hispanic white voting age population.
I see.
You see what I'm seeing? The second to the right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
appreciate it. I think that's all I want to see right now.
Sure, glad
See
to
the
do it.
difference. Thank you.
Lynn?
I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Mr. Cantor, for the work. Like Kathy said, I can't imagine it's easy. Thank you.
Chief Callahan?
No, neither do I have anything to add, but there's a lot of work that's gone into that, and it's really appreciated, Mr. Cantor. You can see a lot of effort getting all the data and putting it in, and you can dramatically see how things have changed in the city and how, you know, the balance has changed a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks.
Rashid?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruben, for this presentation. And this is wonderful work, actually. We know that our city is growing, and I know it's a lot of work put in there to do the redrawing of those precincts. I'm not into the votes and the politics, but I'm really would like to see if the city is doing is collecting any data about the people of Revere, especially the income versus the city growth. Like if these people are allowed, or I mean these people if they can afford the rent, or because I can see like a lot of new faces in the city of Revere. What's happening to the people that they were, you know, like making minimum wages, if they can stay in Revere and pay those, you know, like those apartments that there are being built in the city that cost probably $4,000 or $5,000. I'm not sure if I can afford that. But are we collecting any data about the people in the city of Revere, if they are allowed to stay or if they can stay? And yeah.
Great questions. So let me start with the data question. So the U.S. Census for 2020 has not provided us much more than the demographics that I showed you know, a few minutes ago. However, the census does a survey every few years, and we have data from the 2019 ACS survey. And so we're actually in the process. I have an intern who's working on this right now, cross-checking the new ward boundaries with income and age, and you know, where there are seniors and who have children in the schools, and renters versus owners. So we're doing a bunch of cross-checks to see if we can pull some of that together. I don't know if we'll have it in time for the hearings, but we'll definitely have that data available. So I think that's the first piece I would answer. I think the other thing that is really worthwhile, if you haven't been on in a while, the Next Stop Revere, the master planning process from 2019, that page is still up, and there's a lot of data, including housing data and income data, that still is available to review. And I think a lot of the information that came out of that master planning process is why the mayor launched the Affordable Housing Trust Fund recently. He's talking about inclusionary zoning and working on a lot of affordable housing to make sure that we're mitigating some of the issues that you raised around people being able to afford to stay here. So I think some of what you're looking for is available. More will become available, and I'm happy to talk with you to see, you know, what might be missing.
Thank you so much, Ruben.
Is that a URL? Next Stop Revere?
You can find at revere.org, there's a drop-down that you can find the Next Stop Revere page on from the menu at the top. But you should be able to find that in the business and economic development section.
Thank you. Vice Chair Shema?
I just want to say thank you very much, Ruben and your team, for you know, designing all these maps. I actually have like, wow, I just realized my hijab was not fixed. I actually have like a preference of what map I want, but that's beside the point. My question is, I don't know if this question is even relevant, but it kind of is. You know how in some maps, especially for Ward 2, how it's kind of split with the highway, like right in between near Bell Circle?
I'll pull it back up. Give me a second.
All right, take your time. Oh, I don't know where it is exactly on the map, but yeah.
Sorry, where are you looking specifically? Down here?
Like right near Bell Circle.
To the right spot?
Yeah, no, that's the beach. It would be like towards, yeah.
Sorry, are you talking up here?
I think so. Because I know like Hare Street, the Hare Street side of Bell Circle, that's part of Ward 2 for sure. Unless I'm wrong.
So this is Ward 2 here.
Yeah.
So this looks like Bell Circle here. Right, it says Bell Circle. So we were able to, and we were a little restricted. So this yellow line here, that is the new state representative boundary. That really constricted our ability to adjust. And so they sort of hemmed Ward 2 in a sense. And we had to try our best to stay within that. And they sort of segmented out this little sub-precinct. But you could see that we kept everything along the VFW Parkway and the River Beach Parkway. So everything in Ward 2 is to the east of that.
Oh, okay. All right, never mind. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Reverend Tim?
Well, Mr. K, you did a great job here. I gotta tell you, Ruben, sorry. Ruben, thanks for your hard work on it. I like how the work you've done is excellent, and I noticed Ward 3, just my quick observation, is a little bit smaller, a couple percentage points lower than the other one. It's not a big deal, but I like the fact that by doing so, you've got some of the funkiness out of Ward 1 and Ward 3 before. If you remember Ward 1 before Beechmont, the other side into Broadway, it's now a little more structured out, so I appreciate giving some, looking at it looks like much more condensed in a way that can make some sense to me anyway, as a layperson looking at it. But any reason why Ward 3 is a little bit smaller? Is it, just curious about that?
I think it just was the way some of the blocks worked out. But one of the things we were trying to do, and we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, in hearing, is we were trying to use natural boundaries as much as possible, right? Okay. So the old Ward 4, for instance, used to cross over Broadway in just like a weird little chunk.
Yes.
And we worked hard to make sure we could eliminate sort of just oddities like that that didn't make sense.
I appreciate
so that we could create those boundaries that made a lot, because the feedback we got over and over again is, why is my street split? Why am the people on one side of the street in one precinct and the other side another precinct? And that's because it's the only way to draw the boundaries. Legally, you can't draw it through backyards or anything. You have to, the census blocks that they were given are done that way. So to minimize that, we tried to find those natural boundaries like Broadway to make sure that didn't happen as much.
I appreciate that work, because you can see the differences looking at the map now. So thank you so much for your hard work, Ruben. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Chief Wright?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, thank you, Ruben. Another unbelievable project you've been tasked with. I know you're tasked with an awful lot to handle for the city in the innovation and the data department. I'm sure all ward councils were very pleased with the redrawing of the districts. But I am interested, I'm looking forward to looking at the data and doing a deep dive into it. And I'm sure a lot of this information is going to be very useful going forward. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. I don't have any questions or input, Mr. Cantor, other than just to echo everyone else in the appreciation.
Thank you.
And it's important to have this information, so I'll look forward to sharing the different pages that are on the city website. Other business, do any members on Zoom or in person have any other business? Please unmute if you do. None noted. And there is no one here in person for our public forum. For those of you that aren't familiar with what that is, that's an opportunity for members of the community to address us, whether it's to talk about something that's on the current agenda or just something else that you're concerned about with respect to the work that we do. So that's what the public forum means on the agenda. There's no one on Zoom, correct? Okay. And so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So all in favor? Thank you. We will reconvene, and unfortunately, I do not know the date of the first Thursday in December. Do you have it off the top of your head?
Was it the second? Let me take a look. Yeah, second.
December 2nd. So we will reconvene on December 2nd, and in the meantime, there might be a cultural holidays and celebrations subcommittee meeting, either in person or on Zoom, or a hybrid. And anything that we do schedule is posted on our webpage, as well as on the city calendar with other city meetings. So that's where you can find it and find the agendas, which are posted no later than 48 hours before a meeting.
Sorry, I should let you know that the November 18th, which is the date that this cultural holidays is scheduled, Council Chambers is booked with both the Traffic Commission meeting and the re-precincting hearing. So if you guys end up having to do that, we'll just have to adjust accordingly.
Thank you. We'll loop you into any scheduling, but we are not necessarily looking at that third Thursday of the month subcommittee schedule. So I think we're just starting from scratch from now till the rest of the year anyway.
Great, I'll remove those, thanks.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Have a happy holiday.
Yes.